Pocahontas? Is it offensive? Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry about that. Pocahontas? When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
I'm asking for the vote of every single African-American citizen in this country. What do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
All of my friends in Little Havana.
Your supporters last night were chanting, send her back. Why didn't you stop them? Why didn't you ask them to stop saying that?
Well, number one, I think I did. I started speaking very quickly.
What's your ethnicity?
Why is that relevant?
No, because I'm asking you a question. A lot of us are sick and tired of this country, of America coming last to people who swore an oath of office.
Good to be back. I'm Barry Gordon.
And I'm Andre Coleman.
This is NewsRap, live at 5. Sometimes there are just no words, you know? You watch that and you say, okay, you know, that man is president of the United
Can we go back
States.
to the I'm asking every African American in the country to vote for me part of it, when you guys can roll it up there? I know it might take a second to find it.
Yeah.
Just something I noticed as we saw it.
What'd you notice? Let's see.
If they can bring it up.
If they can bring it up.
I'll point it out to you real quick.
Oh, our guys can
But
do
I guess
anything. Magic.
It's a perfect week for us to come back, right?
It's a perfect week for us to come back.
We thought Mueller was
We
gonna
thought,
happen.
yeah, we thought we knew what we were going to be talking about, but not
haven't?
exactly.
Okay, I think they're about to bring it up
Okay.
right now, Barry. All right, give me a little audio. Look directly behind Trump.
Citizen in this country, what do you have to lose?
He's blocking the one black guy in the whole audience. There's only one. There's only one black guy there, and he's blocking him.
I didn't notice that. That's funny.
And I had a lot to lose, and I didn't vote for him.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, we all had a lot.
And I never
yeah.
would. I never.
You
would.
had a lot to lose.
I had a lot to lose, and you know what? All of it seems like I could lose more with what's going on right now.
I don't know how I mean, I know how we got here, but I don't know how we got here. I really thought that America was moving forward. Slowly, two steps forward, one step back.
Why did you think we were moving forward?
Because we elected Barack Obama.
You know, I say
That's
this.
basically the reason.
I say this all the time.
You know.
I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it here.
Okay.
Barack Obama's ascent to the presidency was a lesson in how far we came in civil rights. Mm-hmm. Barack Obama's treatment as the president showed us how quickly we could go backwards.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
And that's what people missed about it. And the Republican Party, including Donald Trump, who wasn't in politics at the time, spent 8 years making people afraid.
Well, you're bringing up something that's kind of interesting because which you do a lot of the time.
Sometimes I hit. Sometimes I do good, right?
You do, but you're actually bringing up a point. Was the opposition to Obama in the government, not from the people?
Not from the people.
But was the opposition to Obama in the government racially motivated or politically motivated or both?
Both. Both. I'll explain why.
Okay.
The Tea Party was part of the Republican Party.
Right.
That's politics, right? So.
And that was racial resentment.
Cold words.
Yeah.
And there's a lot being said right now that, hey, Trump didn't use any racial language about these Congress people.
Right.
He didn't point out anybody's race. We need to take our country back. We need to take our neighborhood back.
Yep.
We need to take our schools back. Mm-hmm. Back from who? Right. Back from what? He's an American.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you put the N-word in there, and you know exactly what they are talking about. When they said Barack Obama was arrogant.
And that predates Trump.
And that predates Trump.
Totally, yeah.
When they said Barack Obama was arrogant, that means code word for, hey, that boy doesn't know his place. So you don't have to say the N-word. You don't have to burn a cross on the White House lawn. And they didn't. But clearly it was politically and racially motivated. And at no point did Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, Paul Ryan, we can go down the list of all of them, was there ever a point when any of those congressmen or the leaders of the GOP stood up and said, knock it off, this guy was born in America? They didn't.
No, they didn't.
They stoked the fires of fear. And this is the result of that.
And we're continuing.
That's how we got here.
Yeah.
That's how we got here.
Yeah. And I want to show the subjects of this ire, these radical, crazy people who have fire coming out of their
who have to
noses,
go back
and
where they come
screaming,
from,
and who have to go back where they come from. And if you haven't had a chance to see these four folks who are called the Squad,
I hate that name. I hate that name.
It really, really does sound like a 70s television show.
Quinn Martin production.
Absolutely.
I support them, but I hate that.
Yeah.
that name.
Yeah. So, but let's see them.
Despite the occupant of the White House attempts to marginalize us and to silence us, please know that we are more than four people. We ran on a mandate to advocate for and to represent those ignored, left out, and left behind. Our squad is big.
Launching a blatantly racist attack on 4 duly elected members of the United States House of Representatives, all of whom are women of color. This is the agenda of white nationalists.
First note that I want to tell children across this country is that no matter what the president says, this country belongs to you. And it belongs to everyone.
As we all know, the recent tweets and words from the president are simply a continuation of his racist and xenophobic playbook. We cannot allow these hateful actions by the president to distract us from the critical work to hold this administration accountable to the inhumane conditions at the border.
It would be great if he had 1/10 of the intelligence.
Or integrity.
Or integrity of the 4 people we just saw.
And you know what? I think they played that perfectly. Because everybody else that he has attacked, insulted, either ignore him or they don't know how to respond. These women had a press conference where they called him a racist.
Exactly.
Where they went right at him. And it's resonating.
And they did it without anger, without heat.
Without emotion.
They did it, and they did it with passion.
Right.
And they did it with clarity.
And they reminded people that they were elected officials and that the country belongs to all of us.
And we saw, I don't think we have it, but we saw how Ilhan Omar was greeted when she went back to Minneapolis, and how, and you looked at that line that was waiting to greet her, mostly white.
Yeah.
Mostly white.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we are making progress. But what Trump is doing is disguising and hiding any of it and bringing out these festering wounds and just pouring salt on them.
I think the downfall of Donald Trump, and it's something you and I have discussed before on this show, is that this continuous appeal to his base. And maybe he's been told this and he's too hard-headed to understand. He cannot win re-election with just his base. He's got to expand that base.
And he's narrowing the base.
And this narrows
because we've
the base.
already heard from, you know, the watchword this time around. It's not soccer moms. It's not. It's white, suburban, college-educated women.
Exactly.
And that those folks moved in droves to the Democratic Party in 2018. And I don't care if you elect a Marxist, I think they're staying there.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do not believe that we have to pander to the center in order to keep that group.
Of course. Of course.
So, and we do have a comment from behind the curtains. And it says, Trump wants African Americans to go back to a country that his ancestors kidnapped us from. And that's right.
That's true, but even more so, it's so, go back to the country where you came from and fix it.
I know.
These are Americans.
And along the they all look alike category, Lindsey Graham went on and was talking about Ilhan Omar saying how she said to impeach the MF.
Right.
That wasn't Ilhan Omar.
Right.
That was Rashida Tlaib. So,
and Lindsey Graham,
you know, they're not all the same, Lindsey.
He's now likening this to America, love it or leave it.
He said it.
Who put up those billboards?
Was the Birch Society, wasn't
KKK.
it? Initially, KKK.
Those
and
are KKK
and the Birch Society. Yeah.
Those are KKK billboards. So when he goes, it's not racist to say love it or leave it. Just Google it and with KKK and look at the billboards. As a matter of fact, flash it on the screen if you guys can find it.
But that one, whether it's racist or not, frankly, is totally un-American. I mean, that is not what America is about. We don't say that.
No.
We say, love it, stay here.
Change it.
Know? And if you don't love what's happening right now, that's right. Change it, reform it. And every one of those four people have been so clear as to their passion and love for the United States. They just think it can be better. Don't we all?
I do. Well, do you understand the logic here? While we are locking people up who in their own country said, it's so bad, I've got to leave it because I don't love it, we're going, well, no, you should stay there. But then when Americans go, hey, it's bad, we're going, we'll leave it.
That's right.
The same guy who's locking people up for coming here for a better life is telling people who are Americans to leave here. By the way,
did Donald Trump love America?
For 8 years?
He said he almost called us an asshole country.
That's right.
Under Obama, he said everything fell apart.
Right.
Even under Bush, he said everything fell apart. So maybe you should leave it.
So if he told you to go back, Barry, where would you go? I mean,
I got nowhere to go. I got nowhere to go.
Where are you from?
I was born in Massachusetts. I lived in New York for a little while. Been out here since I've been 7 years old. Where am I going to go? West Hollywood?
So if they told
they
told me America, love it or leave it, I'd have to go back to high-priced Altadena, where most of those hillbillies couldn't afford to live anyway.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So you may not want to say that, but this is something. First off, he was softening his stance. He went back to the harder version of his stance today. Yesterday, he was softening it, saying, I didn't like what the crowd chanted.
Right.
Today, he's saying, oh, those were great patriots. He went back to the hardened version of his stance.
Fine people on both sides?
Exactly. I think he was softening his stance because he was realizing this is not turning out the way he wants. This is like the midterms when he used immigration and he thought that would create a red wave.
Right.
And it backfired on him. This is not. And the Republican Party does, I do think the Congress and the Republican Party, they know. This is not the cause to take into re-election. It will not help
No way.
At all. They need to go economy and jobs. But that's too boring for him.
And meanwhile, Nancy is playing the ostrich, sticking her head in the sand, and 95. It was up to 95 for Reverend Green's impeachment resolution, and that had nothing to do with Mueller, by the way. That had nothing to do with obstruction of justice.
So on race.
It had nothing to do with collusion. It was just about race.
So on race.
And got 95. If you added collusion and obstruction, where does that number go? And the other thing is that she's creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, because when we see those polls that she quotes all the time, saying that America doesn't want impeachment, that's partly made up, at least partly it has to be, of Democrats who are listening to Nancy Pelosi say we shouldn't impeach him.
Yeah, but still.
And they're following the leader.
But in the Democratic Party, what are we at, almost 80%?
Yeah.
Of Democrats favor an impeachment inquiry at the very least.
That's right.
Look, you want the Senate, the House, and the White House. We have the House. But if you want the Senate, the best way to hold on to the House, since 80% of Democrats want impeachment, is to impeach.
Right.
But if you want the House, even if you don't get Donald Trump to leave, think about the senators you could damage politically an impeachment inquiry. Think about the people who would be on record.
That's right.
Voting to keep this guy in office, and the Democrats who could use that in campaign material.
That's right. We should probably be looking at the brief.
All right, let's
Should
check
we
it
do
out.
that? The local brief. Here we go.
This is your local news brief for Friday, July 19th, 2019. District 3 Council Member John Kennedy will host Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden in a small, intimate dinner on Friday, July 19th, 2019. Kennedy, who has known Biden for over 30 years, hopes the visit will help bring prepared, competent, relevant, and sane leadership to the White House. Attendees of the dinner will include Women in Leadership Vital Voices founder Lena Kennedy and District 6 Council member Steve Madison. As of now, recent polls show Biden as the current frontrunner for the Democratic candidates. Local newspaper Pasadena Weekly sat down with Representative Judy Chu to talk about the current political situation. In their interview, Chu talks about the conditions of migrant detention centers she recently visited. In the article, Chu says some of them had been asking for medication. There is no running water, and they were told to drink out of the toilet bowl. When asked about solutions, Chu suggests implementing a 90-day maximum for minors in the centers, as well as allowing congressmen to enter the facility without warning to check on conditions. Chu also talks about impeachment, healthcare, and the new Veterans Health Clinic located in Arcadia. A new policy, known as pilots, will allow the city of Pasadena to collect payments from nonprofits. The policy will only apply to nonprofits that come to the city council with plans to build. According to Mayor Terry Turnick, these payments in lieu of taxes will be handled on a case-by-case basis, as most of the nonprofits in the city do not own land. Not all council members are on board with the idea. Council member Steve Madison is quoted as saying, "It's a dangerous area because it gives so much discretion to the city to impose taxes, essentially on institutions that are legally exempt from taxes." One of the most recent pilot agreements involves a $50,000 payment per building with Art Center College. There are currently over 1,000 nonprofits in Pasadena.
So, you had a sit down with Judy Chu.
A phoner.
Okay, that's good enough.
Good enough. Q&A.
Cool.
Really interesting. Really interesting. I mean, sometimes you get, I've done a couple of these with Judy and a couple of them with Adam.
Yeah.
And other local politicians.
Of course, we had Adam here.
And we had Adam here.
And
well, we went to his office.
Yeah, we went to his office.
It was interesting because every now and then you get somebody who really has a lot to say, and she had a lot to say. So she was introducing subjects into it. I primarily wanted to talk to her about the detention centers. And then we went into the census, we went into opioids, we went into impeachment, we went into...
Well, you didn't go into opioids. You talked about opioids.
We talked about
opioids.
We went into possible war with Iran, and after today, you know, tensions are even higher. Just really strong interview.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I think what amazed me the most was, you know what? Adam gets a lot of press, Adam Schiff, and gets a lot of coverage. But Judy Chu is right in this fight to hold Donald Trump accountable.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that gets overlooked.
And she's calling for an impeachment inquiry, I believe, right?
Yes, but not impeachment itself, unless...
No, an inquiry. I don't think anyone should be calling for impeachment itself, by the way. I think what we have to do is to focus the issue.
Make the case.
And once the only way to focus the issue, I mean, Pelosi was on saying, well, we're covering it. We've got 6 committees. That's the problem. No one's covering 6 committees. The media is not covering 6 committees. You might get a soundbite here, a soundbite there, but if you bring it all together into an impeachment inquiry, we're going to be on television every single day with that.
This is the biggest point in that. No one is going to defy an impeachment inquiry or impeachment subpoena. But all these people who refuse to show up to these hearings, so what? What are you going to do about it? See, that's my point. We've impeached John Smith, and he says right off the bat, well, I'm not coming. And then he doesn't show and nothing happens. So then you dilute the next subpoena. Even the criminal contempt subpoenas. Unless you are willing to arrest somebody and have someone taken into custody, why waste the time? It's a waste of time. Yes, right now, the president is above the law because Nancy Pelosi has placed him above the law, and his entire administration, because they don't do anything about it when they break the law.
Yeah, and it makes no sense. You and I were talking about it before we came on the air. It makes no sense. She keeps talking about all this wonderful legislation she's doing, but there's no more relevance to legislation that we know is going to die in the Senate than there is to doing an impeachment inquiry that we know is going to die in the Senate.
So, gun control, $15 an hour. We just voted on it. It's great. It's going to feed a lot of people.
Yeah,
everybody's getting a raise.
Prescription drugs.
Livable wage. And
she still keeps talking about wanting to work with Trump, by the way.
Yeah. Why?
You know, oh, we'll figure out, infrastructure. No, you won't.
But he's a criminal.
Yeah,
and he belongs in jail.
Right.
But I have no problem with him staying in the White House.
No, it's such a mixed message. It's confusing the heck out of the American people.
I'm not confused at all. Nancy Pelosi needs to go. We need another speaker, and hopefully after
she needs to rethink it anyway.
I'd like to see her rethink it, but if she's not willing to, after the next election, the Dems need to make the choice and go, you've had a couple of times at this.
Yeah.
She kind of blew it both times, because the first time the Dems lost a historical number of seats. And now, when the blue wave, people sent them the majority, gave them majority for a reason.
That's right.
And she's blown it.
I know. Let's talk about the other local issue, because it caught my attention. And maybe you could flesh it out. Because revenues from nonprofit sounds kind of nasty.
Well,
so I want to see if I'm not seeing this the right way. By the way, please join the conversation. We shouldn't be ignoring you out there.
And you shouldn't be ignoring us.
Comment, subscribe, join the conversation. We're going to stay on a little bit for our Facebook fans at the end of the show. But go ahead, talk about that.
Well, there's the misconception. First, let me just start at the beginning. The city makes a whole lot of money off property taxes. Nonprofits are exempt from property taxes, as you well know.
Okay.
There's this misconception that the city is now trying to figure out a way, an end around, to get property tax or a fee in lieu of property tax. That's not what's going on.
Okay.
So if you're a nonprofit and you want to expand, you want to build new buildings like Art Center. The point there is, if you enter into a development agreement with the city, and what a development agreement does is it freezes ordinances at the time you begin your development. So ordinances could change in the next 10 years while you're developing. You are locked into this deal. But as part of that deal, the city manager can go and say, hey, look, you're using a lot of city services. So would you be willing to pay us X amount of dollars? We'd be willing to make this deal with you. Since we are freezing the ordinances and the city moves on these services, which you also use, and it's not the same as the property tax amount, it gives them a chance to make the deal. Now, if they say no, they say no. They don't have to have the development agreement. It is voluntary.
I see.
It is a voluntary thing. And in the history of the city...
And it's only if they want to expand.
Yes, if they're in development. In the history of the city, we have had 7 development agreements and only 3 with nonprofits, including Art Center. The other is, oh man, I'm completely blowing it and not remembering. However...
So we're not talking about mom and pop nonprofits.
No, we're not talking about mom and pops. We're not talking about Pasadena Media or any of those...
Or Parsons Nose Theater, right?
Which is what you're asking about. No, we're not
just checking.
Or the Playhouse. We're not talking about any of those at all. So.
Okay, so it's big nonprofits.
Yes, and it's still voluntary. Oh, it was Fuller. Fuller Institute was one of the ones we had a development agreement with. The Art Center is the second, and the Norton Simon Museum.
Well,
so bigger.
Okay.
Bigger, no doubt.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
And how much revenue would the city get?
Well, out of the Art Center is building 4 new buildings. Each new building, upon certificate of occupancy, the city will receive a $50,000 payment. So $200,000 in total. But Art Center is adding dorms. I mean, something like 850
So is that
beds.
the same? Now, I don't want to confuse things, but that's the one on Arroyo? Or no?
Unsure. I don't know.
Or Raymond? Or
I don't know.
Okay.
So I'm not going to toss a guess out there on it at all.
Okay.
But, I mean, it was controversial because, you know, council members, Madison, of course, was alarmed by it, as we saw there, and other council members had to kind of flush it out and say, okay, what are we doing here? Are we going to, is this being imposed?
Yeah.
Because the last thing the city wants to do is start running nonprofits out of town, where Glendale, Burbank, and our surrounding areas don't offer this.
Sure.
But this is not a mandatory thing. Say it again, it's not mandatory.
Not mandatory.
All right, cool.
My hair went flying up. Okay. Yes,
So whenever you say not mandatory, do you adjust your hair? What in the world is that? In all the years we have been on the air together, I have never, ever seen you adjust your hair on TV.
I just did.
Wow.
I looked up and it was like that. And I said, no, I'm not going to allow that.
Wow, okay.
So I'm going to be away next week. And not a good week to be away because we got Mueller coming up on Wednesday. Well, I'm going to be with my grandkids in Hawaii, which I do once a year.
Oh, wow, you're going to suffer so much.
And the last time I was there, we kind of did a Skype thing, right?
We did.
So we're going to try that again next week. And
you're going to be in your Hawaiian shirt.
And I'll be in my Hawaiian shirt.
All right.
And because we got to talk about Mueller. I mean,
right.
I don't want to miss that opportunity. So that we've got to do. And we're going to stay on, right?
That's right.
And what do we want to talk? We can talk about Nancy or whatever we want to talk about.
Talk about Nancy.
Or whatever else.
Whatever else grabs us.
Yeah, and whatever you want us to talk about. So
looks like there might be some comments up there.
Give us some comments. I think there might be. So we'll put those up and chat about that. And we're going to do all of that.
It's good to be back, Barry.
It really is.
Seems like we just did this last week. Doesn't really
I know, and we've been gone for a while.
And it has been.
I know. And I'm going to see Lion King tomorrow night.
Okay, cool.
So, all good things, except for an idiot in the White House. So, okay, that's it for us. I'm Barry Gordon.
I'm Andre Coleman.
This is NewsRap, live at 5. Stay with us. We'll be right back.